2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode where we are going to be talking about another adventure into the superhero realm. And tonight is one of Mosley's picks. So why don't you tell us what kind of dark beings we are going to be talking about tonight?
All right, so we're going to be talking about Swamp Thing. It's a movie that I used to rent the pants off of as a kid. It's a superhero film written and directed by Wes Craven. It's based on the DC Comics character of the same name, created by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. Absolutely awesome series. You should check it out if you get a chance. It stars Adrienne Barbeau, Louis Jordan, and Ray Weiss, along with Dick Durock in the Swamp Thing suit. And it was distributed by Embassy Pictures and released in 1982, February. Valentine's Day tale of romance here. It's got music by Harry Manfredini. So I guess we'll do a quick, first impressions of this. Was it your first time watching it? If not, do you have fond memories of it? All that good stuff.
So I've seen this movie before. I think my first time watching it was... I can't actually remember, which is unusual, but I remember thinking, hey, this is all right. I've heard some people be like, this movie sucks, and it's like, well, I wouldn't say that. And then I watched it again this time, and I was kind of like, most of this movie is them just chasing somebody around a swamp. But in terms of a Swamp Thing adaptation, I mean, it's pretty good.
It's serviceable,
It's kind of difficult to rate it after having seen the 2019 Swamp Thing TV series, which is incredible. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably really tainted my perception of it, because when I see Swamp Thing in my head now, like I see Derek Mears in the multi-million-dollar practical suit that they made, which looks unbelievable, and then seeing Dick Durock in, this thing that... I have the Shout Factory edition, and I remember the behind-the-scenes stuff of how unwieldy, let's just say, that suit actually was.
It looks like it's like all waxy. That's I kept thinking this time that it looked like one of those like heavy metal candles your older cousins would have or something back in the day.
You can tell it looks heavy,
Mm-hmm.
So, bit of a mixed thing. Like I did have some of the Swamp Thing toys that came out to accompany this movie. Or at least probably more so to accompany the animated series, because I was older. Because I was younger than this movie. But that's pretty much all my memories of it.
Okay. I kind of grew up with this being like one of the movies of my time period. It came out in the year that my sister was born. So I have very fond memories of this. Adrienne Barbeau is a babe, and I don't know what it is, but every time I see her, I'm like. But in any case,
must be a generational thing, man. I think you guys are in the same age range. She actually thought Sigourney was hot. And it's like, I don't know, man. That hair.
Sigourney's hotter than whatever.
I will go on record as agreeing with you there, especially if we're talking like Ghostbusters Sigourney.
I never thought that Sigourney was hot. I actually thought. Who was it that played beside her in the original Aliens?
You thought Rick Moranis was hot?
No.
Actually, that would be great to see Rick Moranis in Aliens.
He's irresistible. I'd love to see him like deep faked into the Sigourney part for sure.
Although, if you're talking about that part in Spaceballs when the alien comes out onto the dance floor and says, "Hello, my baby. Hello, my sunshine. Hello, my sweetie pie."
There you go. 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon right there. It's
good times. Good times.
But
we've already gone off the rails.
My first impression of this was it was definitely campy. I mean, it has that run down. Okay, scientist in a swamp, and there's a couple of chicks that look like they could be hot, and of course there is the incredibly dorky black kid. So,
hey, Jude rules. It's like my favorite. My favorite.
I watched
character.
that supplement with Jude on the Shout Factory disc.
I didn't know till today that he was just some local kid. I guess they hired him local so they could just work his ass off or something without all.
They had most of the actors and actresses over for dinner at his place.
I guess Adrienne Barbeau's still friends with him or something, or
was
for a very long time.
Oh yeah, but I have extremely fond memories of this film, and it's laughable now, but for its time period, I thought that it was incredibly much more darker than the film after this, and that's kind of how the series kind of kept it too. So, to me, the series, I don't know whether it was between. Was it between the series 1989?
Was the series late 80s?
Yeah, well, or 1990 or something like that. I forget. I looked it up earlier. It probably coincides like shortly after that second movie and the NES game and all that stuff, and they were doing more toys. And I think the cartoon came around shortly after that, didn't it?
Yeah. See, I used to watch the series a hell of a lot more on Sci-Fi Channel, along with various Twilight Zone episodes and shit like that. So, to me, I would catch various episodes, and oftentimes they would go in consecutive order instead of just going out of order like they do with certain Law and Order episodes. So.
Right.
But
what about you there, Brandon? What was your first experience with this movie?
I watched it back in the 80s at some point in my childhood. I don't remember when, but I remember watching it, and I really liked the main character, but oddly enough, my memories were mostly of the sequel, Swamp Thing Returns, and I have, oddly enough, much deeper love for that movie than I did for this one, which is, again, it's because of nostalgia. I didn't even realize Wes Craven was involved until this time. I still have, but I still have to get the sequel. And the original TV series, which I did love that one. I love the original TV series as well. So it's just it's a lot of my childhood, a lot of early like comic book movies that I didn't even realize was a comic book movie at the time. It just played so well. So to me, I will always remember the scene, which unfortunately I think it's from the second movie, where you see the main female character having like a flower growing from her foot, and it just it's supposed to be some sort of romantic gesture thing, but maybe not so much.
Yeah, I don't know if the feet flowers really do it for me, but to each their own,
Yeah, I know.
What about you there, Jake? What was your first experience with this movie?
Well, this is definitely my first time seeing this.
Nice.
I had known of it vaguely. I, of course, am fairly familiar with the concept of Swamp Thing, and I've seen him. He's shown up in a few comics and DC animated offerings that I've seen. Was featured, here or there in certain stories. I like the idea of the character who is, they say he's like connected to the green as it is. And in a way, he is sort of like the environmental themes involved. I enjoy that. But there's a little else that really, truly caught my imagination about this character, so I haven't really sought them out all that much.
Ooh, boy.
I was glad to finally see the movie. It's definitely a little cheesy, and you can definitely see the poor, the difference. Let's put it that way: the difference in aesthetic than what you can get now. I did, and Dave, when I think Adrienne Barbeau, where my mind immediately clicks to, which did is a positive viewpoint in a sense. She is the one who voiced Selena Kyle / Catwoman on the Batman animated series. Mm-hmm. So again, kind of like last week, we had a character who voiced the Riddler on that series. So it's kind of fun that we're hitting that well with some of these other DC.
Well, and the very young Ray Wise in here was also in Chimorama, which is one of the choices that I chose for this next voting period.
Yeah. So overall, I will admit when I put it on, it was immediately after our 3-hour discussion on When They Cry, and I was very tired to begin with. So there was a lot of running around in the swamp chasing after a guy. So there probably was a good 5 to 10 to 15 minutes that I can't really claim that I saw the full hour and 31. It's probably, but I saw most of it, and it's not bad. I would have gotten the Shout release. It's out of print. I don't know if I'll get it.
It's only like $40 some.
Is that all?
Well, some of the out of print Shout Factory stuff is substantially more. Like I had to buy Leviathan at $50 because God is dead.
I was utterly astonished that they had a high quality rip of this on YouTube without any ads, and that was perfectly decent for my first viewing. I couldn't see paying $40 for this, but maybe one day.
It's worth a solid, 10 unless it's a really nice set. And then
if I could get the Shout set for $20, I'd probably do it.
That's probably
otherwise $10.
I guess like I'm with Dustin. I don't remember the first time exactly I saw this.
I could maybe do it for $30. I have a spare one.
Well, there you go. That sounds better than the 40 or more. So that's just unreasonable for this thing. I don't know though. Like I'd be with Dustin. I don't remember exactly the first time I saw it. I know my dad rented it with us, and in hindsight, it's the type of thing he would have made fun of us for watching. But with Adrienne Barbeau in there, I can think of a couple pretty big reasons why he wanted to check it out. It's I think I'm also kind of in Brandon's camp with it too, because it'd been a while since I watched it, and I feel like I remembered a lot more Alec Holland stuff. So I think I was remembering stuff from the sequel as well, but that pig, that dude turning into the man bear pig at the end always freaks me out. Still, there's something about that thing's eyes that really bothered me. But basic gist of the story with Swamp Thing is, this Adrienne Barbeau is going in there to replace this federal agent, I guess, guarding this doctor who was eaten by an alligator. He's out there doing research on like recombinant DNA and plants and all that good stuff. And there's these military, like, guerrilla type guys working for this dude named Arcane crawling around out in the woods. You see David Hess is in the movie right out of the gate, and I had kind of forgotten about that. And it's like, David Hess and Wes Craven. Hopefully he's not totally slimy. And then he immediately has a copperhead bite a guy on the dick, and they're doing their same old thing again. Yeah,
Arcane is after the formula that Doc Holland is working on. It's not necessarily clear what the formula does. It's just kind of a I want the formula kind of thing, like somewhat.
I think his plan at first is like to use it to ransom it back to the world or something, because it's whatever it is, he thinks it's going to be revolutionary, and that's safe to say with that Alec Holland working on it. But, she kind of shows up at this camp, and we're introduced to the people of the camp who exist in the movie for all of 15 minutes. And, we just realized that Alec Holland is a bit of a lech, but he's a brilliant man. He takes her out to look at, you know, this sensor that was smashed, and they come back and get kind of scolded for going on a little unannounced excursion. What do you guys think of that whole introduction to the people of the camp and Alec and the girl who I think you're supposed to kind of assume is his wife at first, but it turns out to be
you don't get a whole lot of time with them. They do make a little bit of a. I did kind of appreciate the little joke they sort of did with that. It's like, oh, the other Dr. Holland probably wouldn't appreciate your advances. It's like, oh, you mean my sister? And she's like embarrassed that she assumed they were married. That's you know, these people are killed pretty fast by Arcane's goons. So I hardly remember they're in the movie, to be honest.
Yeah, they might as well not be.
I like how they introduced the main female as, you know, your typical ew, it's gross type character. She's like, she reminds me of the character of the main female lead from Lake Placid. Is like, she's got a lot of competence.
Betty White?
No, yeah, exactly. Betty White. No. But just basically a lot of competence there, a lot of good there, but it's kind of slathered with this veneer of this kind of stereotype.
Yeah, and then they're making, you know, cracks at it right away. Especially fun thing to note is the dude that's like leaving as they show up, the guy that's like, yeah, he's had enough or whatever, he's out of here. That's actually, I guess, the dude that's in the Swamp Thing suit, Dick Durock or whatever. That's him crawling onto the plane at the beginning there. Probably the only moment in the movie he wasn't absolutely boiling from the heat there in South Carolina or wherever they did this.
I believe it was South Carolina.
Yeah, it's supposed to be obviously in the bayou, and they do a good job. I mean, I never would have thought it wasn't until I looked at IMDb. I don't know the difference between swamps. So basically, you know, obviously someone's screwing with their research and breaking these things and you know, trying to get into the lab there. And they discover that, you know, not only is this solution that they've made by essentially combining animal DNA with plant DNA to give it like the survival instinct of an animal, is also, you know, kind of nitroglycerin, which is pretty cool. And it just can like do whatever recombinant DNA does. I don't understand that shit, but it makes like the trees sprout out of the boards of the floor when she throws it on the floor.
It's like a fertilizer.
I have to wonder about that concept. The whole concept. I mean, it kind of makes it sound like plants are completely passive and animals are the survivors. Right. And I'm like, no, I think plants can put up with a lot more abuse.
Yeah. You ever done any landscaping? You know that plants are tenacious little shits.
I know. So I found that kind of interesting and somewhat amusing, but as a plant person, almost a little bit, not so much. But
I mean, it's a gimmick, you know.
If you want good plant science, or at least more interesting plant science, go with the 2019 TV series.
Yeah.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah, this is definitely B-movied up for the sake of like expedience, you know.
Yes.
So basically, right as they figure this out, Arcane's men storm the place and just start shooting people. Adrienne Barbeau gets a dude too pretty good though. She's kind of a little ass kicker. She just gets cut short, but you know, basically
action.
Yeah, you know, she might be out of place in the swamp, but she can handle an AK pretty well. She blows that dude right to hell, just firing from the hip. I was impressed with that.
And she's slightly on the take with Arcane too, in a sort of way too, just to get the notes of the scientist. You know?
Well, she protects them through the movie because, you know, obviously that's what they want to get their hands on is this dude's formula. But, you know, basically they show up meaning business. They want the shit. They know that he's made some type of breakthrough. How they know this, I don't quite. Oh, because what's his ass is actually Arcane in disguise, which is a crazy reveal.
He just pulls the face off. It's like some guy that you don't know who he is. Villain. Just like, oh yeah, he like pulls his face off like it's supposed to be like a gasp reveal moment, and then it's just some other guy we don't recognize, and it's like,
right.
I feel like there was some character development that was cut that we missed, you know.
Possibly.
Oh, there definitely is, and according to the trivia, I don't know that Wes Craven remembers what the hell happened because There's like that part where they joke. She says something about like save the malarkey for your wife, Dr. Holland, or something like that. And people speculated that it was like because of a deleted scene, but I guess Wes Craven says some shit about it maybe being like them getting out of character for a minute, but then also says that it was probably a deleted scene. So I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, but it reminds me of there's an episode of the Justice League show where somehow Lex Luthor ends up in the Flash's body, and he's having a pretty miserable time with it. And he runs into the bathroom and he's like, well, if nothing else, I can at least learn the Flash's secret identity. And he takes the mask off and he's like, ha. And it's just some guy underneath, and his smile disappears. I have no idea who this is.
Yeah. What the hell is this is?
That's Arcane's reveal in this movie.
Pretty much, and they said about making it very clear to Alec that they're just going to take his shit and kill him. So, he fights back, gets the juice all over him, does one of the best full body burns ever, and I think
that man
is
1,000% on fire
for sure.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever been more on fire.
It's the same dude who did the full body burn and something else we've all seen several times. I picked it up in the trivia, so I guess me not remembering it doesn't help.
I remember reading that too, but I can't remember what it was.
It said something too about how he'd practice like the best way to do it by just lighting himself on fire next to his swimming pool at home, which was just insane. But how else does one perfect that? I guess that's a good way as any. But then
Kane Hodder got very badly burned.
With that reporter
when one of those practices went wrong. So it's not.
Cool, probably would have been a good idea in that situation, not the middle of the desert.
Well, I know. Like, I saw the documentary about it, and it was like heart wrenching. So I don't want to. I don't want to come off as making fun of it. But
no one's making fun of it. It's just Kane himself, I believe, in the documentary says that he was young. Mistakes were made.
Would that affect a person be Arthur Brewer?
That sounds somewhat familiar. Yeah, I caught it skimming through when I was looking at other stuff in there.
It was some of the special effects behind the Blues Brothers, Masters of the Universe, The Hitcher.
Yeah, all levity aside, like full body burns are no joke. So when you see one done like this, it's intense.
The Kane Hodder documentary gave me a lot of respect for people who do like the full body burns, and then Kane still has done burns like after that.
It's amazing.
And it's like, wow.
Truly inspiring that the dude was able to go through something like that, and then for the love of the craft, still keep doing it. And that's, dudes doing stuff like that is how you get things like this, dudes that are willing to go out there and perfect it. So good on this guy for it. I mean, it's amazing. He runs out the door, and there's that secondary explosion, which just like kicks it up a notch even more.
Into the water.
Yeah, it's just great. And, one area where I think the movie did fall short is, like, we got a better transformation with Arcane later than we did with Swamp Thing, really.
We don't really see.
It's just really bubbling smoke.
Do we?
Yeah, it's just green smoke.
Whereas Arcane, spoiler alert, obviously, near the end of the film, Arcane drinks the formula, expecting to become like the Uberman. He's going to become Swamp. He thinks he's going to become as powerful as Swamp Thing, and his skin like blisters into this like really gross cocoon around him as he turns into basically a cross between, well, Mo said man bear pig and more like man bear pig, but with like creature from the Black Lagoon scales too.
He's just missing the Patrick Duffy leg, man. If he had the Patrick Duffy leg, that would have been so perfect.
Well, and the celery arm.
Yes.
He was trying to get the celery arm.
He did get a sword, though, so it's a good middle ground, I suppose.
Well, to me, it looked like wolf-like.
It did. It had a little bit of a not like it felt howling-ish at a certain elements of the transformation.
They went down the street to the local Halloween mask place and got whatever furry creature.
It had a really crappy eyes. Like his
freaky though, man. Maybe it's the childhood terror left over, but they still freaked me out.
They're beady eyes, but they're very fake looking. It's a very fake looking mask, and the eyes are maybe the worst part.
What were you gonna say there, Brandon?
Or the best.
To me, the cost. I mean, transformation wise, it was a better transformation, but I will say that I think that the costume for Swamp Thing was better than the costume for Heather.
That was also Power Ranger shit with arcane stuff there. A little unfortunate.
The secret of the formula is that it makes you on the outside more of what you are on the inside, and Arcane expects, I'm a genius, and it turns him into this just horrible feral monster, which is kind of almost funny.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because he just
And
calmly
the pig
drinks
element
whiskey.
to it is like a cool sort of, like dig at his personality too a little bit. Like, I don't know what about Alec made him a houseplant, but we're going with it here.
Yeah.
So basically he gets juiced up and thrown in the swamp. Adrienne Barbeau plays dead and steals the notebook. That's like the final notebook with their conclusion in it, like the shit that you need to complete this formula.
How to make the formula, yeah.
So she goes ahead and sneaks out, in the midst of all this. They're chucking bodies in the swamp to dispose of the evidence and just kind of, cleaning up the place. Am I incorrect in thinking that bald dude, I forget his name, one of the military guerrilla henchmen?
Bruno or whatever.
Yeah, Bruno. Is that not the bald dude from Darkman?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yes, he's what was his name? Nicholas Worth. Yeah,
He is a lot more prominent in this than Darkman.
Yeah, it'll be easier for us to break down the plot, I think, too, because I was paying attention to the runtime. Almost a full hour of this movie is the goons hunting Adrienne Barbeau through the swamp while something shows up to kill a few of them from time to time.
Yeah, it takes about that long into the movie before we get a full head-to-toe look at Swamp Thing, I think. Other than that, it's just him darting out behind trees and grabbing dudes and stuff. And they pull it off very much like a Bigfoot vibe to it, too, some of the times where you see him just walking in the distance in the swamp. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if we needed, upwards of 60 minutes of that kind of stuff in the movie, but, gotta fill it up.
Bad.
Yeah, it looks nice,
It moves along at a pace where you don't realize that's that much of the movie. At least I never did before.
Yeah, it's not a slog or anything.
So, and it's just him just grabbing dudes out of boats, and there are explosions, and
I don't think we get explosions till the fan boat, but yeah, definitely lots of boats getting tipped over in this movie. And go ahead.
I said that boat explosion. It's like, what were they putting in that boat? It's like,
become an action guy. That's what they were putting in the boat.
Yeah, I sat there for a minute and I was like, I've got to be able to suspension of disbelief this and make it make sense, So I'm going with that because it's a fan boat and it's got that sort of flat deck thing going. Like maybe the gas tanks were on top. Still don't think it would have blown up that brilliantly though, from just being ran over.
We gotta be careful with this big load of dynamite we were carrying with us. It would be a shame if somebody actually, ran into it and blew it up.
Those crazy Southerners, man, they're strapping the TNT to the boat for ballast or whatever. That's nuts.
Actually,
everybody's putting a lot of thought into this, and I'm just sitting
actually, you talk about those crazy Southerners. I will say one of my favorite parts in this is when she's running from them or not really realizing yet who she's running from, and she's at that place where Jude is apparently the sole worker and proprietor, and she's like, do you have a gun? And he's like, what kind of place do you think this is? Of course we got a gun.
That's like some old piece of shit. That's actually what happens directly where we're at. She kind of evades those dudes eventually with Swamp Thing running interference. She wanders out of the swamp to Jude's convenience store there, and I love that when she's walking up, he immediately knows that it's just trouble, and he asks her, and she's like, "Did you get in a plane crash?" That's immediately his first thought. And you could tell she's lying, obviously,
Isn't she inexplicably wearing a nightgown for this entire movie?
Well,
inexplicably,
it stays
white. Jeans and jeans and a shirt.
Yeah, she's wearing a Hawaiian shirt type deal at the beginning, and then she does change into a nightgown later on in the final act of the movie. But yeah.
Oh, after she's captured by Arcane. Okay. For some reason, For some reason, I never like caught the wardrobe change, and I just thought she was wearing that for the entire movie.
Nope.
She does somehow have a change of clothes after she bathes later, but we'll get there. That's maybe they got him from the trapper cabin they never made it to.
It's always good that you can get to bathe at these points.
Also, I think that's so I should have rewatched my Shout Factory copy instead of just using the YouTube link. Out of curiosity, it's like, is this really all on YouTube in full? Oh yeah, and it was. So from what I understand, the reason the Shout Factory version is so expensive is because it includes like 2 seconds of topless Adrienne Barbeau.
Yeah, okay.
So edited out of all the other releases.
For context, dear viewers,
because it wasn't in her contract originally.
Yeah, there's a part in the film where, you know, Adrienne Barbeau needs to whip out her Adrienne Barboobs and take a little bath there in the swamp, and Alex over there just looking like, yes, they are a magnificent set indeed. And I guess apparently there's the extended version that Dustin's talking about that was in like the European cut of the movie, because European, you know, and they accidentally released that cut of it as like the US version initially on DVD or something like that, which would
on VHS, I think.
It could have been that too. Yeah, it just sounds more likely. And they ended up finding out and trying to get her to sign off, and she denied us. She denied us the boobs, man. She said, nope. That's what. To be fair, it was in the contract. I'm sure she didn't want to do it to begin with. And they all seem pretty open about the fact that it is gratuitous and just kind of put in there. But why not? You know.
And the interview, she actually states, and they, like I say, I actually had a chance to watch most of the supplements, which was pretty cool. I rarely do these days, and it was kind of fun to watch. I was like, I never realized that I didn't have that in my contract, that I was able to actually say no to it, and that was just kind of funny that she was like, I didn't realize I could have said no to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it is pretty out of place. I'm not going to say that it's not appreciated.
I'm not sure if the cut I saw, which cut it was, because I watched the YouTube, but I was amazed that there was something in the YouTube.
In the American version, we get the side boob and the nip slip. We don't get the full frontal, you know.
We get to see her chained up against the wall.
I just love how peaceful Swamp Thing looks. Like, yes, drink it in. Like, he's just
well, you know, why not?
I better stand here. I mean, she could
whatever. He got more of an eyeful in that basement, that's for sure.
He's a bit of a lech, though. He just plants one on her, man. Like right there, as soon as he discovers, like, yes, we did it, and he just open mouth kisses her with no warning. At that point, we still don't know if he's married or not. But anyway, she hooks up with Jude, and pretty much that's the point where we realize that she doesn't understand that Ritter was actually friggin' Arcane or whatever, which this probably would have been a better point for the reveal. Just saying.
Yeah, because it was kind of a surprise when she was calling in to her boss. It turned out to be the bad guy all along, which was a surprise there, and that was kind of cool. I like that reveal.
Yeah, if they had not like demasked him at that one part, it would have been really cool to have him unmasked right there, like as he's sitting in the limo where no one can see him or something like that. I don't know. They were gonna kill anyone anyways, though, so I guess the reveal makes sense. But you know what? Like, this is the point where, you know, she calls him and they show up to obviously apprehend her. She gets the gun from Jude. It immediately misfires, which I don't know why that part always makes me laugh so fucking hard when she shoots the gun and then just drops it and immediately bolts. What else are you going to do? But she did it so naturally that it seemed fairly real. And it's at this point that, you know, she takes off into the woods, and I think that's when we get our first like actual look at Swamp Thing. He comes out and he stops that Jeep as they're chasing after him, and then deals with those guys, and she's all terrified of him, so he wanders off, and Jude shows up, and she tries to tell him that the Jeep hit a truck. He's like, it must be one of those hit and run trees. They ain't around no more. And then that's when he says he's going to take her to a trapper cabin, and then all of a sudden he has this elaborately decorated boat that he's, you know, paddling through the swamp with her on. And I think that's the point where, those guys have came out into the woods and she's like, Jude, you got to take this notebook and just get the hell out of here. I think mainly because she just doesn't want to get him killed, which she comes pretty damn close to anyways.
I think he does get shot.
He gets shot, or at least in the very least bludgeoned severely. Like the whole side of his face is covered in blood and he's out for the count. And she's split off to, I guess, try to draw them away, but poor Jude got fucked up anyways. And this is the first point where we see Swamp Thing use his healing powers, which interestingly, Wes Craven thinks Spielberg ripped off for E.T. I personally don't know that it matters.
I can see his argument, but I doubt it.
I mean, I think it's just, if you're going to illustrate some healing power, making it glow as good a way as any, so he heals up Jude. Jude gives him the notebook, and we get one of several scenes where Swamp Thing just holds the notebook close to his face and like ponders his work or something. I just thought those were funny for some reason. I
remember there's a scene where he goes back to the lab and like tries to manipulate test tubes, but his hands like can't do it, and he's like, "Rah!"
Right. And I think that is like shortly after this part, isn't it? Because I think she goes back there to the thing too, right before this, and then obviously when she splits off from them, I think circles back around.
Goes back there for the notebook, but she ends up like seeing him and watching him, and when he terrifies her by his outburst, her thinking that he was going to come after her or some shit. Still, since she seems to be kind of a skittish female.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna probably take off too. There's a big old friggin' moss man in the woods freaking out in some abandoned building. But it's kind of shortly after this shit. He comes, he heals up Jude there, and he deals with those other guys that are trying to nab her again or whatever. I think this is the point where they actually do end up like capturing her momentarily, but she escapes again. And that's where they start hatching the plan to obviously get her and the damn notebook and capture Swamp Thing, because Arcane obviously needs him to figure out all this research too. That pretty much leads to the sweet fan boat scene, which I think we're probably all fans of.
It blows up.
There's an explosion. There's some fan boats. It's probably the only swamp scene, I think, from what I read, that wasn't shot.
I don't remember why, but I remember it blows up.
Swamp Thing, it has some tremendous power while being Swamp Thing. I mean, he can come up underneath the damn boats and like scatter the dudes, or jump on top of the boat and like seriously catapult these dudes. Like,
there's a lot of them chucking guys through the air into water. It's like his main attack is just chucks you like a bale of hay or something.
Enormous strength.
It's so funny when he drives the boat at that one point too. I don't know why that just looks so funny, him driving the boat.
Because he looks so wild,
right? He's piling it like a son of a bitch too.
Just green Bigfoot driving a boat. He really does look a lot like Bigfoot. Like, I hadn't thought about it until Mo mentioned it, but it's like, you know what? Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some of those scenes where they show him in the distance. It almost reminds me of like the Patterson footage or whatever, like that famous Bigfoot tape.
Right.
Just lumbering along. And at one point, they get her onto the boat. She knees David Hess in the nuts. He chases her into the woods. Swamp Thing intervenes again. David Hess, chops one of his arms off with a machete, but then he crushes his brain. And that's pretty much like where we get the whole Adrienne Barbeau boob scene where she's bathing. And then after that, they get captured. And it's kind of like, Alec just wanted him. At that point, there was no way to deal with this without just dealing with these dudes, So like he said, the way out is through or something like that. When she's like, you wanted us to get captured. Yes, I did. And so basically he does some super villain shit, right? Like, he's got the final notebook now. He's got both of them captive, takes him back to his lair, feeds Bruno the juice, which turns him into, I don't know what that is that he turns, some type of pig monkey. Yeah, some type of pig monkey. Apparently that was his main traits, was he was like stupid and timid or something. What's that?
I love the trailer. I watched the movie trailer and I just love, it's like monsters and midgets and like
Yes.
it just as inappropriate as that is today, it's hilarious hearing somebody say that as
he's like
you're supposed to
with such enthusiasm.
he's like a winged monkey without the wings.
Yeah, dude, it reminded me almost too like of something out of like that.
Goat.
I wasn't sure what to put it on, what animal it was. It definitely reminds me of like some Island of Dr. Moreau shit.
Yeah, when he gets his arm chopped off, like in that scene, we get my favorite piece of dialogue and probably my favorite scene too. It's like, because Adrienne Barbeau gets to finally talk to Swamp Thing and find out that he's Holland. And, she's just kind of in awe of what he's become. And she's like, does that hurt? Only when I laugh.
Oh, yeah. That was some good stuff.
I also find it interesting that in the comics that they did change the original creator's concept, that they changed the story around, that instead of it actually being the scientist, that it was actually a plant creature altered by the chemicals that took on the memories of the scientist, which is
yeah, that's what they do in the new Swamp Thing. And I don't know, that's one of the things that differs between this movie and the new series, which I don't know, that concept's always kind of weirded me out. It's like, oh well, they're dead, but their consciousness is still in existence, and it's like, well, then are they really dead?
Yeah, it gets pretty weird with it. I mean, even in the comics of Swamp Thing too, they do a lot to touch on weird ideas of existence and nature and things like that. It gets pretty nuts if you read it.
That's the Alan Moore Swamp Thing, right?
Yeah, that one especially goes into like some straight acid trip territory with some of that stuff. It's worth a read if you're a fan of the character and you want to dig into like Swamp Thing shit that isn't just him showing up in Batman or whatever, But yeah, they get taken back to this lair and he's fixing to like, torture the information out of him or something. But Alex, like, you don't really need to. There's no secret here. It just turns you into more of what you were to begin with, And so he's like, very interesting, And so he just goes and he sips some of the juice immediately.
Kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of a thing.
Sort of, only permanent and horrifying, Like it's I don't think he was bouncing back from that, but maybe time will tell. I especially like the part where he's regrowing his arm. He's got that little strong hand for a minute, like that little baby Groot hand sticking out of his stump.
I just keep thinking of that moment in Scary Movie 2. This is my strong hand.
He's mashing the potatoes with it. Yeah, that whole bit was pretty cool. He's reaching for the sunlight. Obviously they've got to get the hell out of here, and they've locked that little midget monkey thing in there with them. And yeah, it turns out that there's a secret switch. So after he's regrown his arm, they're like able to escape, and they have to swim through that well, which I always thought was really cool, and it leads to the absolute horrifying imagery of Arcane coming out of it.
That well and everything kind of reminded me of like Lex Luthor's lair in Superman for some reason. I don't know.
He just has Arcane just has a dungeon, like a medieval dungeon,
right?
Complete with like the big crosses that you like people to.
Oh yeah, man! It was decked out for some torture that he sadly was like clearly excited to do, but there was no reason to, unfortunately. And it's in terms of like secret escape passages, like an underwater, like a well that goes underwater and leads out into a swamp is pretty cool. And I suppose from here we just have the last battle between him and Arcane after he's turned into Man Bear Pig and he's got his sword and he's out there swinging it around.
I like how clearly like pissed Arcane is that he's like some ugly monster instead of whatever he imagined he would become. He's throwing the formula, he's smashing stuff, and almost like as an afterthought, he just like turns to like the case on the wall with the sword. He just like smashes it and like takes the sword. It's like He's not going to take the time to find a better weapon. He is so mad. He's just going to take this display sword.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, man. I mean, and I guess if you've turned yourself into a man-bear pig, the only thing left to do is just go swing a sword wildly at people.
Go on a rampage.
Well, yeah.
And unfortunately, Adrian Barbeau takes one to the chest there, but Swamp Thing's able to heal her with some titty moss later, so it's all good. They have a really underwhelming final battle, I would say. They could, if they were going to do all those effects where Arcane like turns into the thing, then I feel like his death would have been cool. Some effects in there too, and it's really just him laying in some fog after Swamp Thing whips his ass with like a stalagmite for a minute, and then eventually gets the sword and does him in.
Actually, they did have a thing originally where like orange ooze was gonna like bubble out of Arcane's face.
Nice.
But the effect almost drowned the actor, so they had to not do that.
Yeah, that doesn't. That's unfortunate because that probably would have looked really, really, really cool. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on the final battle there? I guess that's kind of where we're at.
I mean, I really felt like the costume effect was more comical and cheap than scary for the Doctor, which is kind of sad because I really liked the costume design of Swamp Thing, and I kind of even liked the design that they used when they had like the little person character of Monster. I thought that was actually quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, it looked good.
I felt like they cheapened out. It almost looked like they grabbed they went to the local costume shop and just grabbed something off the rack. It's like, here you go.
Yeah, it's got like Build-A-Bear Workshop fur on the back of it and shit. It just doesn't look good. And the transformation is leagues cooler than the final product for sure. And it's just fight choreography wise, it's very much a big guy fight. It's like those fights that you'd see in WWF back in the day where it's like, it's cool because they're huge, but about 2 minutes in, you've kind of seen what you're going to see, They could have done a little bit more with that stalagmite thing, or I forget what the hell they're called when they're pointing up and not down, and it was in the middle of the woods, so I'm sure it was actually
those are actually trees.
Yeah, that's when it makes more sense. It looks like that kind of, but he could have stabbed him with that.
Those were those conifers? Those were conifers, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, bald cypress.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that stuff. I mean, but it would have been cool if he had like somehow impaled them on one of those, or they could have done a lot more with that final battle than just have them kind of thump on each other for a minute.
Just whack him with a branch.
Right.
I speak for the trees. Oh.
That would have been great.
Yeah, hell yeah, you do.
Got Loraxed.
Loraxed.
That would have been great.
That is like Swamp Thing's like stick too.
It really is.
With the green and everything, which they kind of bypass all that.
Yeah,
they don't put so much into his whole connection with nature, which is pretty immediate in the comics from what I remember. He's just kind of out there, it gets as deep as him repeating his lines about there being beauty wherever you look in the swamp or whatever.
There's beauty in the swamp if you know where to look.
Over
and yet they felt the need to party it up. Like as a plant geek, I did take umbrage with the idea of them putting all those tropical epiphytic orchids into the swamp. That was kind of stupid.
They became invasive orchids.
Yeah, stupid little jerks.
Aren't orchids like really fragile, and they would have probably all died without too much concern?
Though I did find it, I mean, one of the things that it kind of reminded me of is I remember doing a trip when on the way to Myrtle Beach for a vacation to the Great Dismal Swamp, which was enjoyable. Of course, we were hoping to see more wildlife than we did, but we seemed to find a lot of it more on the way back from the trip than we actually did during the trip. But it was still kind of fun just to be able to see some of those areas and the swamps. But the one thing I don't like about the swamp is the thing that's most prevalent is mosquitoes.
Yeah.
I ain't about it, dude. I'll just watch Swamp Thing and shit like this if I need it. Like, I'm already terrified of water and bugs and all the stuff that comes along with it, and then you mix it together in a murky, dirty swamp where I can't see the shit like stalking me. I'm over it. I drove through those states once with my dad. That was as close as I need to get. But, no hating on the natural beauty of it, though. I do like seeing it photographed and stuff or whatnot. But
Right.
And I wouldn't have known that about the flowers. I mean, and it's a shame they did that too.
I'm not a plant geek. In fact, I think out of all the areas of biology, I know the least about plants.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to take a plants course for my last semester, but that
they could have
had a reputation as like an absolute hard ass, and it was like, oh, you won't have a good time. And it's like, oh.
They could have picked beautiful plants that are in that region, though. There are some very pretty
bulb cypress itself is a gorgeous plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, go ahead.
Actually, what's funny is that when I was in community college, early on, I took that route of community college, 4-year college, master's degree, grad school at that. But our teacher was our biology teacher was actually a plant specialist, and he actually was taking tree corings for the state. He was kind of weird. He kind of had this he looked like gosh, what's that guy? The guy who did this streak and the musician. Oh gosh, what is his name?
That did the streak? You're talking about Ray Stevens?
Yeah, he looked identical to Ray Stevens, and but he was a hippie, and he took us to various areas to do tree core samples, and he taught us a lot about that, which was a very interesting thing. So it was kind of cool to learn about the plants, understanding more from how you can safely take these samples and learn more about nature from them. So it was kind of cool to see that in the swamp as a thing.
Oh yeah, and I imagine if especially if like you nerd out on that kind of stuff, Swamp Thing and probably the series and the comic books and all that would imagine would be fun to look at, just to spot what's accurate and inaccurate and all that good stuff. I was really hoping.
Or Man-Thing if you're a Marvel fan.
Well, there you go. I was hoping the end of that story was going to be that you guys maybe saw a Swamp Thing. That would have been pretty cool.
Or Bigfoot, same difference.
Skunk
He
ape.
threw
Yeah.
us into the water to keep our boats from blowing us up.
Yeah, gotta watch out for those friggin' exploding fan boats. So I guess this is as good a time as any to touch on favorite characters, favorite scenes. I think we've talked fairly enough about special effects, really. There's like an explosion and the Swamp Thing suits.
There is the thing where he regrows his arm, which they starts. I kind of like how they did that because they show like a little branch with like 5 buds on it starting to kind of open up, and then they cut to it, and it's a really teeny kind of Deadpool hand.
Yeah, I love it. It's so adorable.
And then in the next shot, like his arm is back and he's busting chains, and it's like, oh, wow, that's pretty.
I think if I'd have done it, or like if I did it now, it'd be cool to do something like that and sort of give it that effect, like those National Geographic, like time-lapse videos of plants blooming in the desert or whatever that you'd see. That'd have been kind of a neat way to see something like that happen. That's probably a favorite scene for me right there in terms of special effects, is that and the arcane transformation. Those are my favorites. I don't know. You guys got you guys got like a favorite character?
I don't know about. Well, even though Swamp Thing is kind of thin as a character, like he's still cool. So I'll go with Swamp Thing.
I'm in between Swamp Thing and Adrienne Barbeau because she's an interesting conundrum in this movie. Because at one point she's like this timid, very like you kind of person, and then on the other point she kicks some ass, man.
She turns into an action hero for like a few scenes, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, help! And it's like, wait, what? Did we just run out of gas, or what's going on here?
Well, she ran out of guns. I think that was part of it. I mean, she's like some type of federal agent, yeah? Aren't they supposed to be like government guys protecting the scientist or whatever? So I thought they did a good job of portraying it as she's an ass kicker. She's just totally out of her element in like some gross, icky swamp, you know?
Right.
Which is probably fair.
I like the evolution that they put the character through, so that you didn't. I mean, she came across as almost like the typical stereotype, like, you know, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, these type of characters. But then as she went further, you can tell that she's kind of an ass kicker, and there's more to her than you would think.
Right. So what about you, Brandon? You got a favorite character?
I'd probably go with Swamp Thing. I like the character in general. I like the environmental bent that he goes with, just much like Man Thing. Though I prefer the Swamp Thing with the kind of costume that has the mustache, which is the sequel one.
A little vine stash, love it.
Yeah, it's just I don't know why it just appeals to me more.
He's sophisticated, man. He's a scientist. He's like, you know.
But with that being said, I think my favorite part is seeing the boat blow up. I don't know why, it just cracks me up every time.
It is fantastic. So what about you, Jake?
As far as the favorites and such?
Yeah, favorite character, favorite scene.
Well, it is a little thin overall on the characterization, but I would say I do rather like what little you get to see of Dr. Holland. He's a fun character in a way, and this version of Swamp Thing it's not bad. It's an interesting character, and Jude was fun.
Yeah, for sure. What about favorite scene?
Favorite scene, that's kind of hard to say. I mean, again, that one little comment about what kind of place do you think this is? I love that.
Oh, it's so classic.
And there were the way that Arcane looked after the transformation was just so unbelievably over the top and silly that it just, I don't know, it made me smile, but it wasn't necessarily my favorite, but it just amused me.
It's just so great too, because it's a pretty rad transformation, and then the payoff is like, really? That's it? That's what he turned into? Yeah. Thought he's gonna come out of there looking like fucking Brundlefly or something. He's man bear pig swinging a sword.
Right.
That's good stuff. Definitely my favorite character.
Stupid noises he makes. I just love the stupid noises he makes.
Noises and connections to the Howling, because like I mentioned, there is elements of that Arcane transformation, like the way the fingers do the weird thing that they do and stuff, that reminds me slightly of the Howling. And I guess they did like reuse some samples from the Howling. There's like this high-pitched shriek that happens in the swamp a bunch, and I guess it's the same. That the chick.
Speaking of sound, so the music sounds a lot like Friday the 13th music, because Harry Manfredini, who did the Friday the 13th music, did the music on this too. And I just wanted to be sure that I did not forget to bring that up. So.
Yeah, indeed. That's definitely something worth mentioning. And there, you can tell there's some similarities, you know, but it's the same dude that did it, obviously. So if you're a fan of those movies, it's probably worth, you know, listening to.
It's very recognizable, like you can tell.
Right, yeah. And it fits. I don't know that the score is like, for me, the standout thing of the movie. Not that there is anything that really just reaches up and grabs you like that, but
there are definitely some sound cues where it's like, hey, this sounds a lot like Friday the 13th.
Right.
Oh, right.
And then that was, I believe, Craven's follow-up to this, right?
Yeah, he came up with the idea from what I read in the trivia there while he was working on this, and he said it's the only career benefit that came from doing Swamp Thing was he.
He was like stick to horror. He was like stick to horror or what?
Pretty much, like he did. This was after, I think, was it Deadly Blessing or something like that? In the trivia, it said he was like just living on his paycheck for this for a while afterwards and not really getting anything. So I think that's why he took the idea he had while he was doing this and went back to horror and just stuck with it,
I've been going back to the gym and I'm reading the book about making the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Oh, sick.
And it's been a long time since I've been in the beginning where they're talking about like the conceptualization of it. But I'm going to go look at those chapters again and see if there's any mention of, Swamp Thing convinced me to, because I get kind of the feeling that's
he didn't get too adventurous with the sci-fi shit after this. I don't think. I think this was like his one real foray into something fairly drastically different to, the normal stuff that he does. And not that, I guess you could consider Wes Craven's movies normal, but
he did make a couple other forays. But yeah, he definitely went back to the horror for a while. But I think, he definitely had a couple. This one fits more in his overall oeuvre than Music of the Heart does.
I don't know that I've ever seen or heard of that one. That's I might need to check that out.
It's one of those inspirational stories about a teacher trying to teach inner city kids, basically.
That sounds interesting. I'd like to see. Oh, it goes without saying he never attached his name to any type of major franchise outside of horror.
Right.
Swamp Thing may have never been the most high-profile DC character, but it's high-profile enough that he's like remembered in terms of people that are fans of the.
Yeah, and I think he liked the Swamp Thing comics and put in a really solid effort to do them justice.
Oh, yeah. And especially when you look at it from the viewpoint of him not being really aware of them before being offered the project or whatever, and then just doing it from like reading them once through the series and going. I give him mad respect for that. He got damn close to the spirit of the shit. Nailed it pretty much to a large extent. And he was coming in new to it, I don't know though. I think if I had to pick favorite character, it's definitely Jude. I just think that kid rules. He's got a good natural sense of humor and just style to the way he plays the part, and that makes a lot of sense considering he was just some rando local kid. Kids in movies.
He kind of just disappears after a point, though, doesn't he?
I think he's standing there with her at the end, and he's like, "He'll be back, though, right?" And that's like the last line of the movie is them just being like, "We're making a sequel eventually."
Well, I'm just kind of like, because from what I remember is, so they get captured, and then Jude just kind of disappears until that moment. And
he shows up randomly, and he's like, "Hey."
That bothered me a little bit, but
Jude should have had some part in that final fight. It would have made it more interesting. I don't know though. I think then in terms of like, I already said favorite scenes, and if I had to pick a favorite scene, it's definitely that Arcane transformation. I think just in terms of overall like kick-assery.
No, we already got mine. Only when I laugh.
Yeah, that is
I still say that sometimes.
There's another good like dad joke in there too when they're chasing him with the fan boats and the guy comes over the radio and he's like, "No sign of him. I think he bought it, or maybe he bought the whole vegetable garden." And David Hess is just like, "Oh God!" Like even he knew that it was trash, but it's just great that they put it in there. The only when I laugh part is pretty genuinely funny. That vegetable pouch, I don't know what they were thinking with that. So I don't know. Any final thoughts on this, guys?
It's worth a watch.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. It's a good it's a good kind of return from my childhood, and it's a fairly solid, basic comic book movie.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably going to get more entertainment value if you go ahead and just double feature it with the sequel. But if you're a fan of Swamp Thing, it's definitely worth revisiting. And if you're a fan of Wes Craven, it's definitely a a neat little oddity in his filmography, you know. Well, I think that about does it. I mean, you know, there's not too much else to talk about. If you're gonna go out there and search out a cut of this, might as well be that European one, you know. Get a little whiskey. I'll hand it back over to you there, Dave. I think we've about covered this.
Alrighty. Well, I think that comes to our outros then. So who wants to start? Dustin, did you want to start your outro?
Sure. I'm Dustin. I'm a student and horror collector living here in Milwaukee. I collect anything I can find relating to horror, and I show off my pickups with videos on my YouTube channel, The Crypt of Horrors. And I also have an Instagram called The Crypt of Horrors, where I show off collection items in a bit of a faster format. So I have enough stuff to shoot a couple more videos, which with all the stuff that I've been trying to do to keep busy, I don't know if I'll really have a whole ton of time to do. But you know, there's stuff in the works. So I failed to chainsaw this guy. So yeah, I just try to have fun with it.
Yeah, I always enjoy your videos, man. A lot of cool stuff.
Thank you. I ended up getting, at some point, I'm going to show this off, but I got the Hellraiser Scarlet box after wanting it for like a year. I did have to pay like twice as much as I was willing to, but we got it, and it was like new. So
we'll get to put that Hellraiser stuff to use pretty soon.
I will. I also get to sell my Steelbook, which is apparently worth $45. Which will pay for about a third of the box set. Which is fitting, considering that it's Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3. Which I had 1 and 2, but the only way to get Hellraiser 3 on Blu-ray was in this set.
I haven't seen past 3, and so it's all just some drunk fever dream for me after part 3. I don't remember most of them.
I like the one that's based on a video game.
What? I have only seen the first 2 Hellraisers. I was told to avoid the rest of them at all costs. So
3's worth seeing, you know. It's but yeah, the first 2 are just, that's amazing. It's like one of the best double features ever in horror too. They just work so good because they just
get better as they keep going.
We're all entitled to that opinion. I respect yours, Brandon.
they get cheesier and just crazier.
Okay. Who wants to go next? Did you want to go next, Mo?
Oh, sure. You know, I'm Mo. I do videos for my channel, Drunken Master Studios. I'm still working on some Kaiju Quarantine episodes. Did a couple last week that you guys should check out. Also, most recently, I did a review for Zombie Holocaust, hoping to follow that up with a sort of discussion with my girl about the Dr. Butcher cut of the movie here soon. So that'll be a cool pairing if that eventually happens. But yeah, just pop over there, check out my Zombie Holocaust review. Thankfully, they let me put it up without saying it was inappropriate or anything. They didn't like the thumbnail. I just changed it to a slightly different version of the same art, and they're fine with it, so we're good to go there. It's actually on there. No redirect required. So enjoy.
Woohoo! I really enjoyed the episode myself. I was glad I caught it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, you'd enjoy that. I think there's a lot of things in there that make you laugh your ass off, Brandon.
All these things. It's like that meat mannequins or whatever the heck that is. That's coming out as a re-release. That would be a pretty cool one to get. I just don't want to pay $30 for it. But if you want to get it, you better get it before it's gone.
I'll have to look at that. That'd be a cool band name, Meat Mannequins.
I know that's not the right name of it, but it's one of those things that we covered.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm gonna call
it. Alrighty. So Brandon, did you want to go or?
Sure, why not? I'm Septum Sen of Septum Sen versus the World. of course, we are a physical media channel. We cover all those things. We do movie reviews. We talk about what's coming out. That's how I know about the mannequin thing. And also, we do various other things like reviews and so on. Unfortunately, we had technical difficulties where none of the sound recorded on our new release video. So I had to just release it in shorthand. But hey, maybe that's an advantage to half of you who don't want to sit there for an hour and a half. As far as our pickups, that did come across very well.
Alrighty.
Oh shit! Did we lose him or
Did we lose you?
Brandon?
Oh, sorry about that. Whenever I'm like trying to look at my notes, for some reason it cuts the sound.
Oh, shit, I thought you like something happened. I was gonna have to pull out some.
We're doing a.
Something.
We're going to be doing a. I'm going to be doing a review of a Bobby Lee film called "Bro, What Happened," directed by Dante. I can't think of his other name. Which is pretty cool, as it's out of print, and just various other fun things. And also you need to check out our Higurashi, or When They Cry, discussion. It's a very massive discussion, but it covers everything in depth, so you get a good feel for the series there. Finally, I am working with Inside Movies Galore. And in relation to helping with what is out, we of course have finished our superhero summer, which we're all excited about. And now we're going to be going into Kaiju Combat for August. But not before we cover a birthday. My wife's birthday is next week. So we're going to be honoring that by allowing her choices, which are going to be the first two Hellraiser movies. We're going to just kind of start a little bit earlier with the first one and then hit the second one, I guess, in the main space. So look forward to that, you Hellraiser fans. I know that Jake is looking forward to that. But the votes have come in for our other ones, so I'll go ahead and let you know the lineup.
Come on.
So for our we only have really 3 weeks of kaiju-ness, and we have a couple that required a shout out. So thank you to Animazing Collections Inc. for a Facebook group for supplying a good number of votes. Movie Collectors, and Moe's Tavern, and Talk Movies with Us, the ones that voted the most throughout these compilations. So our first one up is going to be a pre-show involving the American Godzilla King of the Monsters 1956. Because the main show, which had the most votes, easily beating everything else, was Gojira, the Japanese original, which is really truly the only fit way to start a kaiju combat in reality.
Congratulations, man! I know you really wanted to talk about that, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
We followed that up with something that really came up from behind. I mean, in the last 2 days, it just got a ton of votes. The pre-show became Cloverfield. But Dustin will get to host us for the main show, which would be Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019.
Yes.
But yeah.
And then, of course, our last week, we have our, of course, one of my favorites, which will be great to have at that time because the set will be out soon, which is the original Gamera as a pre-show. And then the main show will... I guess we're just going to be doing a Godzilla theme for August because it will be Shin Godzilla.
All right.
Ooh.
So we have a lot of Godzilla fun for the rest of that month. So I think we got a lot to look forward to.
Did we get Gamera?
Yep, Gamera is going to be the pre-show for that last week. So technically, if you were to go from voting order, the order of votes would be. I always run it like, of course, our three would be our top three: Godzilla or Gojira, Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019, Shin Godzilla, then Godzilla King of the Monsters 1956, Cloverfield, and Gamera. It's actually in that order, vote-wise. So a lot of fun stuff to
Did
look
mine
forward
end
to.
up getting any votes?
Which one were you? Okay, no, actually, neither one of those got any votes.
Oh, man.
Actually, wait, didn't you put up Shin Godzilla?
No, I put up Death Kappa and Colossal.
Oh yeah, neither one of those got votes.
I heard good things about Colossal. That was a really stiff competition, though.
Yeah.
Who put up Shin Godzilla? I know I put up Gamera and.
Shin Godzilla is pretty cool, although
Yeah,
it's definitely not a party movie.
I really wanted to go with Godzilla 84 and the first of the Heisei Gameras, but I also really wanted to do that Gojira discussion, so I was down to throw some like just random ones I was fairly certain weren't going to get voted for. But if they did, it would have been cool, you know.
I would have loved to have done Heisei Gamera, because the Heisei Gamera is pretty solid. Is a pretty solid series. Indeed, yeah, it's insane.
I am looking forward to opening up that Gamera set and just going on that. So it's going to be kind of fun either way. Return of Godzilla, by the way, is on the Right Stuff sale, really cheap for the Blu-ray. So for those of you who want to grab that one,
check out my review too. Pretty good.
So, any case, sorry about the long one. It's always is because I have to usually cover the Inside Movies Galore stuff. So.
Now comes the part where Jake teases us about one day walking in nature and giving us sweet videos.
You need to do like Coyote Peterson and just start getting bitten and stung by everything you see.
I don't have time. This is I'm Kotobuki Jake. I'm a anime, movie, TV, generally media collector and fan. Also co-star in Symptom Sin versus the World, and we bit off a lot for this week, and as a result, I am dog tired, but we did get some good discussions out of it, I guess. So that'll be cool. And I look forward to cracking open that Criterion Godzilla set. Will be put to good use in the coming weeks. And as they said, if I do have time, I will get some nature vids up on my channel, Kotobuki Jake. It just I need more time.
The worst thing is I have like nothing but time, but I don't know. I've been going to the gym every day, and that's a big time sink.
That's a good thing to do, though, if you got the opportunity. Yeah, I need to do that more.
Well, I have stuff I've kind of committed to do, but when I get home, I'm kind of too tired to do anything. So it's definitely got some repercussions.
Alrighty. Well, my name is David Streggy. I am a founding father of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this journey. If you have followed us so far, please definitely check out some of our other discussions. We are continuing our superhero month. So definitely check out what's in store for us next week, Tuesday. We have some exciting stuff coming up. And I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur. So check out some of those video uploads and video reviews and whatnot. And let's keep out of the swamps, people, because evidently there's some mutated something.
It's the swamp hag. Get out of my swamp, you kids.
So like, share,
yes.
subscribe, and thank you so much for listening.